says, to urge government to do so. And all of us in this House, Madam Speaker, just to put it on record, agreed and approved the motion. That is what made the government to forward it to ECZ to do the limitation, hence the report of 2020. So it was unanimous agreed, and it was from the people of Zambia through that motion. Now, listening to the Vice President this afternoon saying that we cannot just amend one article. In the event, Madam Vice President, that there are no any other articles that are urgent to be amended in the Constitution, would you consider amending this one article? Because if you go back, there was one time when this House amended on one article. There were 150 constituencies, and Honorable Kabingapande brought a motion, and 6 other constituencies were added to make 156. So, Madam Vice President, in the event there are no any other immediate serious articles to amend, would you consider just to do this one amendment? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Her Honor, the Vice President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I hear the Honorable Member is talking like they would tell you on the plane, in the unlikely event. That is most unlikely that we only have one issue. And it is such kind of amendments that makes us go to and fro, when only a small group of people say, can we do this, and it is done. I think that there are many other issues that even the Honorable Madam who has asked the question is concerned about in the Constitution. I am sure it is not on this only one, Honorable, that you are concerned about. There are many issues. But if it came to that, because what we are talking about is basically something that will affect the elections, then that may be so. But I don't see that is the only thing that concerns all the Zambians. They are all just thinking of that one in the Constitution. There will be many. Let us not just come up because we are executive, we bring one item and then we say we debate. Because Honorable Kabingapande was in the executive. I should think I was in the executive too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Member for Mandevu.
Madam Speaker, the people of Mandevu are grateful for this opportunity to ask Her Honor the Vice President a follow-up question. Madam, Her Honor the Vice President, as you may be aware, Mandevu and my honorable brother there looking down, Kanyama, are the most populated constituencies in Zambia. And if we were to take the example of our friends in the East, Malawi, they create a constituency for 50,000 people. Every 50,000 people has got a constituency so that resources are distributed equitably and development goes to the people. Your Honor, you earlier said that Article 58 was rejected in Bill 10 because it was bundled together with other issues. Now, learning from experience, and because the people of Mandevu would love to enjoy the increased CDF so that the resources can be shared equitably. As it stands now, if we were to divide the 30 million going into Mandevu from the population of 464, if we were to share it, we only benefit per individual, only 64 kwacha. And we support this question as Mandevu. Don't you think this is the right time to isolate this issue so that we make progress, so that the increased CDF can be felt equitably to the people of Zambia? I submit. Thank you.
Her Honor, the Vice President.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker and the Honorable Member for that question. I remember that a question of this nature came last time on the floor, the issue of the mode of delimitation. What are you using? Is it population? Is it the distance, the area? Because in Zambia, I think we use both to a point. But those are the discussions that should come before we agree. Are we going to say the people, which people can I use? The people of Kasempa, whose population may be far much smaller than the people of Mandevu. But that means they will need roads longer than the roads in Mandevu. Sorry, madam, I don't want to open up this debate, but it's in appreciating that kind of thought that let us not just leave it for now. Let us think about it so that when we come to this issue of delimiting the constituencies, we have the rationale, because that should also be looked at. And yours is one reasoning, others may have another. But that is how I would respond to that. I hear you, and it is should be part of the discussion. Thank you, madam.
Thank you very much. Before we go to that, I'm just wondering, have the honorable members submitted delimitation as one of the non-contentious issues? Because you honorable members were asked, please submit. So if we are talking about delimitation, honorable member for Bangweru, have we submitted this as one of the non-contentious issues? If we don't submit, then the process will not start. That is just my observation. Okay. What's the point of order, honorable member for Lumezi?
Madam Speaker, citing Standing Order 65, that the information which we bring to the floor of the House should be factual and verifiable. Madam Speaker, when approving the 2024 budget, it was on the floor of this House that 15 constituencies will be delimited or added to the existing constituencies. Honorable Madam Speaker, is Her Honor the Vice President in order to depart from that which was budgeted for by your House, Madam Speaker? I seek your serious ruling. Thank you.
I don't know if the honorable member for Lumezi was in the House when Her Honor was giving a response to this. And she specifically said that even if there is a budget, just from what I heard, even if it has been budgeted for, that is the Electoral Commission. But there is also the constitutional provision which needs to be amended. So you can't do delimitation without amending the Constitution. That's what the honorable, the Vice President said. So she's not in order, she's just stating a fact. Unless if you have anything to prove that Her Honor is not. So she was not out of order. Thank you very much. Let's make progress. Next question, the honorable member for Itej.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Question number 218.
The Honorable Minister of, Acting Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Mr. Twambo Mtinta, the Honorable Member of Parliament for Itej, is asking the Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development at A, whether government has any plans to construct a bridge across the Kafue River to connect Namwala and Itej districts, and that if so, when the plans will be implemented. Our response: the government indeed has plans to construct a bridge across the Kafue River between Namwala and Itej districts. At B, the project will be implemented once the required funds have been secured by the Treasury. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we go to supplementary questions, honorable members, just to inform the House that the ZESCO interruption was caused by a fault at Unza substation. ZESCO power has been restored, and we are assured by ZESCO area manager that we are all safe. But the honorable member who raised that concern, he has left the House. I don't know whether he's scared that there could be some catastrophe that is going to befall him, but he's not in the House. I wonder where he has gone to. And similarly, a few other people were here, but they've left. Supplementary questions, the honorable member for Iteshtesh.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Minister, for the comforting response that you have given to the people of Iteshtesh and Namwala. However, Minister, I also want to put it on the record that Iteshtesh originally was part of Namwala, and when the UPN government came into power, they decided to take Iteshtesh back to Southern Province. And as I speak now, Iteshtesh is part of Southern Province, and it means that the district administration offices, for them to access the provincial office, they need to cover over 800 kilometers. And the other optional road, which is Dundumwezi Road, it is also cut off. It's good that you have made an assurance that these plans are there, but I would want to find out, are these plans, the funds that might be used to work on these roads, are they from the government budget, or it could be like how it happened in other provinces like Western, where government sourced external funds from the World Bank and the other sources in order to mitigate this big challenge which the people of Iteshtesh and Namwala currently they are facing. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a long question. The Honorable Acting Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to confirm here and now that as government we take that particular project very seriously, and that over time we are going to connect the D619 road that alights from the Mongo Road through to Iteshtesh, through the pontoon right now into Namwala, onward to the Choma-Niko Road, which roads we are still struggling to put into bituminous standard. So far, we are trying to extend the bituminous portion of the Choma-Niko Namwala Road all the way up to the south bank of the Kafue River. In the meantime, we would like to request that our people between Namwala and Iteshtesh keep the faith that once the funds are sourced from whichever source, whether it be from the donors or from government plans, that bridge is overdue. It has to be erected at some point in the future. We are also determined to correct the many errors that happened on the D619 road that goes from Mongo Road to Iteshtesh, so that connectivity is made much easier for our people, especially in Iteshtesh, who have to travel so many kilometers to get to Choma, because in certain instances it becomes more convenient to come to Lusaka before going to Choma. And so be assured, and let our people also be assured that, Honorable Member of Parliament, once we recover from the malaise that was left to us by those who were there before us, in terms of how much liabilities we were left with in terms of debt, it is a matter that we'll put on the table as soon as we can.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Iteshtesh, you are satisfied? Honorable Member from Bavala, you are in Iteshtesh. What's the supplementary question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As a matter of fact, I actually did my grade 7 at Banga Primary School in Iteshtesh, then as Namwala. So I'm a subject of the people of Itesh as well. So I wanted to do a follow-up as to whether the road, that's this exciting news from the minister, is going to also include road rehabilitation all the way on the Choma-Namwera road that leads to Itesh through Vanga, or you are looking at the Dundumwezi line all the way through Muyobe, Dundumwezi, which route we are looking at for putting a bridge and ensuring that we have a bituminous road on these major roads that link Choma to Namwera and Itesh. Thank you.
Expanded question. The Acting Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Madam, first I must apologize to the Honorable Member of Parliament from Mbawala, because as you know, I'm in an acting position, and to give an answer that requires a straightforward, precise response may be challenging on my part, because I'm not very certain whether the tarmac will hit the Kafue River where the pontoon is or any other place, because I'm not familiar with the geography of that place. Suffice to say that the MP can come to the office of the Minister of Infrastructure to get an answer that will be representative of the truth.
Thank you very much. Let's make progress. In that case, then, the next question, the Honorable Member for Feira.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving the people fair to ask question 219. I thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Honourable Member of Parliament for Feira asked the Minister of Tourism when government last conducted cropping of elephants, crocodiles, hippos countrywide in order to manage their numbers and also reduce the cases of human-animal conflict. And in the next question, Madam Speaker, when the next cropping exercise will be undertaken. Madam Speaker, in our quest to answer the question, my ministry may wish to note that cropping, or rather, my ministry would wish to indicate that cropping is a normal undertaking of harvesting animals for meat or trophy, whilst culling is a slaughter of animals to manage their population when it goes beyond the carrying capacity in a particular area. Madam Speaker, the last culling exercise for elephants was conducted in the 1960s, when the population of elephants was very high and widely distributed in the Luangwa Valley, and the elephant culling has not been conducted ever since. Further, Madam Speaker, records indicate that crocodile culling was conducted in the 1980s on Lake Mweru and Tipa, and since then, crocodile culling has not been conducted. With regards to hippos, Madam Speaker, a planned culling exercise on the stretch of the Luangwa River was started in 2016. However, Madam Speaker, that exercise was halted by the government of the Republic of Zambia due to uproars from members of some sections rather of society that felt that it wasn't a good thing to do, and no culling of hippos has been attempted since then. Madam Speaker, in the next question, when the next cropping exercise will be undertaken. Madam Speaker, currently the population of elephants, crocodiles, and that of hippos are in a stable to decreasing state. I'll repeat, are in a stable to decreasing state. The elephant population declined in most parts of the country, and only in the Luangwa and the Kafue ecosystem have strongholds of these species. Madam Speaker, the hippo population is generally stable, and Zambia holds the highest population in Southern Africa. That is approximately 40,000 hippos in the Luangwa system, holding the highest population. Now, this is purely in the Luangwa system. The crocodile population can be described as stable to declining in most of the river systems in Zambia. Therefore, Madam Speaker, no culling exercise is scheduled to be undertaken as the population status of these animal species in most of the country is not too high to warrant culling, except for hippos on the portion of the Luangwa River bordering South Luangwa National Park, where the density of hippos average about 46 individuals per kilometer. Madam Speaker, however, cropping through hunting and problem animal control is done annually. I'll repeat that, Madam Speaker. Cropping through hunting and problem animal control is done annually. For instance, Madam Speaker, this year alone, in 2024, the ministry plans to crop through hunting a total of 63 elephants, 191 crocodiles, and 225 hippos across the country. Madam Speaker, I submit.
I hope the honorable members have heard there is hunting of crocodiles. Please apply for licenses in order to control the numbers. Supplementary questions, the honorable member for Feira.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Minister, for your sincere answer. Madam Speaker, completely perturbed, surprised, shocked, and actually very disappointed. Every week, Madam Speaker, and I'm saying the truth, our children are eaten by crocodiles. Right now there's hunger, the elephants are eating our fields. Just that in itself, without conducting a research or any exercise, it gives us a prima facie case that there is a problem of population. And the information we've gotten from wildlife officers is that there is a huge population of all these three categories, particularly Luangwa, and I believe elsewhere. And in this House, by its records, will show that every member has been raising this issue, either as a matter of public urgent or in questions. Today, we have this opportunity. I want to disagree with the minister. If we can see this, the control of population of for the elephants, 1960s, last done, crocodiles, 1980s, an attempt on 2016, there were an attempt on hippos. Madam Speaker, I just want to put it to the minister that I do not agree that the population of these animals is stable. And I strongly do that, and I want to put it on record. Government has no choice but to, in fact, I like the word they've used, to care these animals. We need to reduce it just for people to survive. Like I said, these three animals have also increased the effect of hunger on our people. I submit, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And thank you for that follow-up question for Honourable Member for Feira. Madam Speaker, I did indicate that my ministry, through the Department of National Parks and Wildlife, does undertake surveys of the population, which we like to call a habitat, in all national parks and indeed all game management areas. And by virtue of the Government of the Republic of Zambia assenting to treaties such as that of CITES, we are bound by the rules and regulation that would dictate what animals to be cropped at any given time. I hope you understand what CITES is all about. And indeed, there is what we call a CITES quota. Now, this is not Zambia specific, Madam Speaker.
Order, honorable members, please, as you go out, do that quietly without interrupting the proceedings. And this habit of honorable members going in that corner to give the back to the presiding officer and chat with the members on the last bench there, I think you are now you've sowed enough. The soil is fertile. There is no drought. We have the standing orders. They will visit you. So please, can we observe decorum of the House? It's not proper for honorable members to go make noise, stand in the corner there, giving the back to the presiding officer, because that is against our standing orders. These standing orders, we made them for ourselves. We should comply with them. If we are not familiar, let's read them to refresh our minds. May the honorable member for Feira, well, the minister, sorry.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. As I was saying, Madam Speaker, Zambia is a member of CITES, the Convention on International Trade of Endangered Species. And these particular species we are talking about, Madam Speaker, the elephants, the hippos, crocodiles, are actually endangered species. So we do have a specific quota that is agreed upon for each country specific to what we're going to do in terms of cropping. And that is the reason why whenever we're doing our safari hunting, Madam Speaker, specific quotas that I just alluded to are what we apply in those particular areas. And Madam Speaker, for the honorable member to suggest that my officers have actually indicated to him that there's more elephants than what the ministry has, then I think it would be very folly of my officers not to give me that particular information to the ministry, when in actual sense they're the ones who are charged with the responsibility to actually give me the animal count in their respective areas. So, Madam Speaker, we will try by all means, like I mentioned, depending on the scientific research that we've done to ascertain the numbers of species out there, we should be able to increase the quotas for both hunting. And like I mentioned, over and above hunting, we've got what we call control. Control is when those animals actually ravage your field. That is when we send those officers to control those particular animals. But ultimately, Madam Speaker, I've said it before and I'll say it again, can we see how best we could coexist with these animals? This wildlife we have is the draw card for our sector, which is tourism. And this House itself has earmarked tourism as an economic sector. In the absence of those animals, as you're suggesting that they be cropped, we might not get the numbers that we want. Madam Speaker, I submit.
Thank you. The honorable member for Chama South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, indeed, statistics are showing that we do not have a lot of elephants. But if you see what is going on in our communities, human-animal conflict, particularly to do with elephants, is the order of the day. This is, Madam Speaker, is happening because the habitat is becoming smaller compared to the numbers of these jumbos that are roaming. What measures are you putting in place to protect human settlement, particularly human fields, both from elephants as well as crocodiles? Because this is happening. What measures, apart from cropping, which we are very grateful, you timely authorize control of these elephants, and we're asking for more of that timely control, Honorable Minister. What measures, permanent measures, your ministry will be putting in place to ensure that this interface is, if not permanently reduced or removed, at least it is reduced, because people are losing lives and their crop. I submit, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you for that follow-up question, Honorable Mungandu. Madam Speaker, I will not stand here to say we have a permanent solution to human-wildlife conflict. The only thing that I could guarantee is to reduce the severity of the incidents that happen between, the conflict that happened between the humans and the animals. And more so, Madam Speaker, to also encourage my colleague members of Parliament, is that we do understand that the population is growing, human population rather is growing, and the appetite to get into particular areas, such as GMAs, which are actually threatening park boundaries, is getting higher and higher by the day. Madam Speaker, you also notice that the rain pattern has actually shifted now, more so into areas where my GMAs and my parks are, and those are where our people are unfortunately creating more and more fields. That in itself is a threat to the park. That in itself is a threat to the humans who live around those areas. So, Madam Speaker, to suggest that we're going to have a permanent solution is not there. Only thing that the ministry will do is to reduce the severity of the problem and to encourage you, my colleague members of Parliament, who are actually members of Parliament in the GMAs and indeed parks, to request that our people have their fields far away from those particular areas where the animals are. And more so, Madam Speaker, these animals purely look out for food in those particular areas. And we do understand that now we are experiencing a drought. It's also important that we found alternative ways of storing our food, as it were. So, Madam Speaker, I thought I could just make mention and make a clarion call to you, my colleagues in Parliament, to see how best we could keep our people out of danger, including those ones in Fera. Madam Speaker, I submit.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Fera.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Minister did mention that we are part of CITES and all the international instruments that we have signed. Therefore, we have that obligation. I do agree that we are part of the global world. However, we have special problems. And I think that as a country, we should make decisions based on our situation. Now, the people are saying that you protect these agreements as well as animals to the detriment of the people. And like we have said, people are dying. There's hunger coming in as a result of these animals. My question is really, as a country, forgetting about this, are we not able, if an international agreement allows, dictates that we do certain things, why can't we come out of it for the sake of protecting our people? Because these sites and other international agreements are not in favor of at least the people of Fera. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Minister of Tourism.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you for that follow-up question. Withdrawal from CITES may not be a solution, Honourable Member of Parliament for Fera. However, to probably meet you halfway, my ministry, in consultation with a number of institutions across the region, and I must make mention, Madam Speaker, that the Minister of Tourism, Zambia, happens to be the coordinating chair for CASA, which obviously is countries involving Angola, Botswana, Namibia, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. And we still boast to having the largest population of elephants in the world. And as such, we are now putting in a position as to how we are going to manage these particular animals based on the concerns that you've raised. Now, the only way we are going to manage that, Madam Speaker, is by ensuring that whatever numbers that we present to these bodies that we subscribe to, which is like CITES, is validated. And the validation of those numbers can only come from, number one, the community itself, number two, obviously my officers who you seem to have a very good relationship and they give you factual data, and obviously the third one, which is indeed the ministry itself and the regional bodies such as CASA as well as SADC. Once that is done, then we should be able to put in a very a good proposal to CITES to allow us to increase our quota, and it will be specific to the regions. Like I mentioned earlier, if you're looking at the Luangwa sector today, we have the largest population of hippos. Even those of you who are fortunate enough to get hunting permits, whenever we're gracious to give them to you, we'll send you to the Luangwa sector so that you crop as many hippos as you possibly can. Madam Speaker, I submit.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Lumezi.
Madam Speaker, through you, permit me to declare that the Luangwa River passes through Lumezi constituency. Madam Speaker, the Honourable Minister has been kind enough to respond to questions that are not speaking to the realities of the needs and the challenges that our people are facing. Honourable Minister, the voice of Lumezi is going to be polite.
Oh, the Honourable Member, this is time for asking supplementary questions. Please ask your supplementary question.
Honourable Minister, is your response based on those that are benefiting from the game huntings that you are responding to? Because we cannot be casual on this matter, Honourable Minister. You gave out hunting concessions. You didn't give me anyway. I love to hunt in Itezitezi.
Let's not debate, Honorable Member. If you want a hunting concession, you can see the minister after we adjourn. Just ask your supplementary question. We make progress.
Honorable Minister, are your responses based on your personal aggrandizement or not? I thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you for that follow-up question. Madam Speaker, no.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Chenge.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I've heard the Minister talking about cropping and the other word which I didn't get very clear. I've been reporting to the Ministry of Tourism. In Chenge, we have hippos which have been terrorizing people of Chenge in Kalembwe and Mukunta area. Now, the question that I have for the Minister, why, if they say they can only, they have a period of doing that. In this case,
I don't know now whether we have to crop the dog. So, is that a dog from the Honorable Member for Chenge? Honorable Member, you have a dog in the background. It will be cropped.
can you hear me now? I'm trying to change the... Can you hear me now, Madam Speaker?
We can hear you, but we can still hear the dog.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to find out from the Minister what would be done in such a case where we don't have a lot of hippos in Chenge, but we have hippos which are currently terrorizing the people of Kalembwe area in Mukunta. What would be done to such hippos? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you for that follow-up question, Honorable Member for Chenge. I think the other word that you may have missed out is the one of culling. And like I mentioned there, culling is just a process that we do to make sure that we create a balance of the habitat in a particular ecosystem. Now, if there are problematic hippos in your particular area, those, my team, can come through and do what we call control, because they become problematic and they become too familiar with the humans, and hence they may not be right in that area. Those we control. But for other ones which we just feel are naturally migratory, then my team will be able to move them from that particular human habitated area to the respective GMA or indeed the national park. Madam Speaker, I submit.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Itezitezi.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Minister, for the responses that you have given to this important and emotive matter. Now, Minister, one of the major challenges that we are facing, especially we members of Parliament from the areas that are in the GMA, is the response levels of your staff to mitigate some of these challenges. I'll give you an example. Just last year, I lost over 10 youths as a result of animal-human conflict. Now, Minister, what is the ratio of the crocodiles, hippos, elephants, versus the number of staff you have to protect our people? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, before I answer that follow-up question, I think the area member of Parliament would be kind enough to be very, very factual about the number of people who have died last year as with regards to or attributed to human-wildlife conflict. We might just be scaring the general public. However, Madam Speaker, we do realize that managing national parks is not a small thing. Based on our resource envelope, as a ministry, we have been trying as much to see how best we could get a lot of law enforcement in the area. And the Honourable Member of Parliament may wish to note that the aspect of managing national park transcends beyond just having to have these animals around there. We have another vice which is very, very rampant, and that of which, Madam Speaker, is poaching. So we need to have as many feet on the ground as we possibly can. To attempt to give him ratios, Madam Speaker, almost like a pupil-teacher ratio or CWAC versus the beneficiary ratio, social cash transfer, Madam Speaker, I think my colleague, Member of Parliament, may wish to come to my office so that I can just give him a full detail. But just to indicate that we do have staff, law enforcement officers who are well trained to manage these areas. And also, Madam Speaker, we've gone beyond having to ask some of our cooperating partners to help us manage these particular national parks and GMAs so as to ensuring that we keep the habitat alive, we also keep our people safe, and also make sure that we market those particular national parks as one of the prime destinations for tourists. Madam Speaker, I submit.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Gwembe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honourable Minister, you indicated that the population for the crocodiles is stable and hence no cropping can be done. Honourable Minister, what do we do with the crocodiles that are killing our people on a weekly basis? We are parliamentarians. Should we take a... Anyway, I will not go beyond that, Honourable Minister. Thank you.
Honourable Minister of Tourism.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much, and I would like to thank the Honourable Member of Parliament for Gwembe for that follow-up question. Madam Speaker, I think, may I use this opportunity, Madam Speaker, to just indicate to members of the House that some of these population statistics we're giving out here could be region-specific. But as a ministry, we are looking at the entire country. So if it means relocating some of these crocodiles out of Gwembe to a different area, it's a process that can be done. But if you go to other sectors, I'll give an example of, say, hippos. Today, if you went into the Liua sector, you will not find any hippos. You go into the Kafue system, you will not find hippos. But the largest concentration is sitting in the Luangwa system. Now, we don't necessarily isolate specific systems to say this is what we have. Indeed, you will find that the largest population of elephants today is in the Sioma sector, Simaraha area. Now, we're not saying that we've got a lot of elephants in Zambia. Other areas do not have. And that is the reason why we say the population of these animals we're talking about is stable to decreasing. So we need to make sure that we keep it that way and let the population start to grow. Now, honourable members of parliament, should you have some of these animals become more problematic, my officers are ready to come through to ascertain what the problem is, and two options will give you, either to control it, which is to kill it, or to move it to a different area where we will now have lesser and lesser problems. But to now come to the House, Madam Speaker, to suggest that we should start cropping these animals because we have seen them with our naked eyes that they need to go, I think we'll be doing ourselves a disservice. Madam Speaker, I submit.
Thank you. The list keeps on growing. Honourable Member for Bonamkubwa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Minister, for your submissions. Madam Speaker, we are very much aware that elephants and hippos have been terrorizing our people, and there's the issue of human-animal conflict in this House has been discussed eminently. I just wanted perhaps to find out from the Minister, apart from cropping and other issues, how they can help to mitigate the people affected, or maybe probably
When will the ministry operationalize the fund to console these people as and when they're affected? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you for that timely intervention from Member of Parliament for Bwana Mkubwa. Madam Speaker, I have been on the floor of this House indicating that my ministry, together with Her Honor the Vice President's office, which is the Disaster Management and Mitigating Unit, are looking at opportunities on how we could look into the aspect of consolation and not compensation. And by way of consolation, Madam Speaker, we are in talks with private outfits to see how best we could create a consolation fund by way of an insurance, which will now look towards having to console those families who, one, may have lost their loved ones, or two, may have had their crop ravaged by these animals that we are talking about. So, Madam Speaker, when the time is right, that particular issue will be brought to this House, of which I expect that when we amend our Wildlife Act number 14 of 2015, if I'm not mistaken, this House will be able to give us our resounding support to ensuring that each and every of our people is now consoled by way of human-wildlife conflict. Madam Speaker, I submit.
Thank you. The last question will be from the Honorable Member from Mbabala.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, you conferred us with the wildlife guards, and you have gone ahead to employ wildlife guards in your strategy. Are you not considering, instead of cropping, but alternative community parks where both wildlife guards and ourselves as the wildlife guard officers, though we have guns, we could actually have these animal community parks that could enhance local tourism. For example, in my village in Macha, every year we get visited by the elephants, and this year we have already been visited by zebras. If a community park was put in that area, it seems it's a route for the animals. If a community park was put, then we would enhance local tourism and use both those guards and ourselves as wildlife officers to ensure that we protect these animals as opposed to cropping. What is your view on that? Thank you.
My worry is that you having a gun. The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much, and thank you for that follow-up question from Honorable Member of Parliament from Mbabala. Madam Speaker, I'll just address two issues emanating from what my colleague MP has mentioned. Number one, Madam Speaker, through you and the committee, we have honorary wildlife police officers in here. Most of your members, Madam Speaker, are honorary wildlife police officers. But due to what I would like to call busy schedules, we have not inducted your members. And I'm hoping that before we adjourn this sitting of Parliament, Madam Speaker, you will allow us to induct most, if not all, of your members in here. Second matter, Madam Speaker, is I have again been on the floor of this House encouraging communities, chiefdoms, to create what we call community game farms. The reason why we're encouraging community game farms, Madam Speaker, is twofold. Number one is for yourselves in your various communities, if you've got large parcels of land, to have wildlife, and you are able to now manage that. And also, Madam Speaker, to allow us, or rather to allow you, whenever you have your traditional ceremonies, such as the one we should be attending this weekend in Chipata, so that when you want to crop any of those animals, you don't have to go through the hassles of having to request for a special license, but you're able to just go in your community game farm and crop the animals that you're keeping yourself. The exact same way you're keeping your livestock. That's why you're right to encourage you. And more so, Madam Speaker, even at the personal level, we're encouraging a lot of Zambians to have private game farms. You can keep animals in captivity. Please come to our office, apply, depending on how big your piece of land is and how much vegetation you have, we will recommend what kind of animals to keep in there. So indeed, Madam Speaker, we are very much open to allowing as many people as we possibly can to keep animals in captivity. But be rest assured that even as much as you import those animals are kept in trust by His Excellency the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. Madam Speaker, I submit.
Thank you very much. I suspend business for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much. Business has been suspended for 5 minutes, and under consideration is a question for oral answer, question 219, which came from Mr. Emmanuel Tembo, Federal Member of Parliament, who did direct his question to the Minister of Tourism. I wanted to find out in A, when the government last conducted cropping over elephants, crocodiles, and hippos countrywide in order to manage their numbers and also reduce on cases of human-animal conflict. And in B, when the next cropping exercise will be undertaken. So far, the House has considered 4 questions for oral answer understanding Order 74. The first question came from Mr. Sidin Mushanga, Wacha Member of Parliament. He did direct his question to the Minister of Fisheries and Livestock, and the other one also came from Mr. Elias Daka Msanzala, Member of Parliament, who did direct his question to the Vice President. So right now, we take a quick break and we'll be back on the other side. Good afternoon.
Zambia. Even saying the word is a
5 minutes break, and under consideration was question number 219,
which
200
is
question 219, which came from FERA Member of Parliament, Mr. Emmanuel Tembo. He posed a question to the Minister of Tourism on whether government has conducted cropping of elephants, crocodiles, and hippos countrywide in order to manage their numbers and also reduce on the cases of human-animal conflict. And part B of the question, he wants to know when the next cropping exercise will be undertaken. And still to come, Joe.
Still to come is question 220 from Mr. Tyson Simuzingiri, Gwembe Member of Parliament, to ask the Minister of Technology and Science. He wants to find out in 3 parts whether the government has any plans to decentralize the operations over the Technical Education, Vocational and Entrepreneurship Training Authority, TVETA, to the provincial level in order to enhance service delivery. In B, if so, when the plans will be implemented, and C, what measures the government is implementing to ensure that TVETA is adequately equipped so as to effectively monitor the provision of quality training standards.
And we have one private member's motion expected to be moved by Mr. Emmanuel J. Banda, Member of Parliament for Petauke Central. He wants to urge this, rather in his motion, he's urging that the House urges the government to increase the quantity of fertilizer for farmers under the Farmer Input Support Program. So this is what some of the business that is expected to come
today
in the next few hours as the House continues its business.
Thereafter, Brigadier General Stwala, retired Kaoma Central Constituency Member of Parliament, will move a motion urging the House to adopt the report over the Committee on National Security and Foreign Affairs on the report over the Auditor General on the rehabilitation and reintegration of prisoners in Zambia for the 3rd session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 12th December 2023. And this motion will be seconded by Ms. Sibongile Mwamba, Kasama Central Member of Parliament.
Yes, so in total we have 5 questions that are coming for oral answer, 1 private member's motion, and 1 committee report to be considered on the floor of the House. So far, what has been considered on the floor of the House. Some of the questions came from Ms. Anzala, Member of Parliament, Ms. Elias Daka. He posed a question to Her Honor the Vice President. In the first part of the question, he wanted to know whether government has any plans to delimitate some constituencies prior to the 2026 general elections. And part B of the question, he wanted to know if so, how many constituencies are earmarked to be created. And part C, when the plans will be implemented. So we go back to the floor of the House for continuing.
When business was suspended, the House has just concluded question 219. Next question, the Honourable Member for Gwembe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question 220.
The Honourable Minister of Technology and Science.
Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Member of Parliament for Gwembe asked the Minister of Technology and Science a question in 3 parts. In part A, whether the government has any plans
You may continue.
Mr. Speaker, the question is in three parts. In part A, whether the government has any plans to decentralize the operations of the Technical Education, Vocational and Entrepreneurship Training Authority, TEVETA, to provincial level in order to make the service delivery easily accessible. In B, if so, when the plans will be implemented. And in C, what measures the government is implementing to ensure that TEVETA is adequately equipped so as to effectively monitor the provision of quality training standards. Mr. Speaker, I wish to inform the House that A, the government has planned to decentralize the operations of the Technical Education, Vocational and Entrepreneurship Training Authority.
Honorable Member for Petauke. No. This is the House of Order, Honorable Member. You can't just keep training like you're at the bus station. Let's ensure that we are orderly. The Honorable Minister, you may continue.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to inform the House that the government has plans to decentralize the operations of the Technical Education, Vocational and Entrepreneurship Training Authority, TEVETA, to the provincial level in order to make service delivery easily accessible to institutions, students, and the general public. The strategic move is in recognition of the importance of enhancing accessibility to services for educational institutions and students across the nation through the regional centers. The setting up of regional centers will be undertaken in a phased approach, with the southern and Commonwealth provinces being targeted in the first phase. Mr. Speaker, this House may wish to note that it is government's desire to eliminate the geographical barriers that have hindered the efficient delivery of services by TEVET institutions and students, foster local engagement, as well as enhance decision-making in the various regions. Mr. Speaker, the House may wish to know, however, that TEVETA has submitted to the Manpower Division at Cabinet for approval of the revised manpower structure to enable the recruitment of inspectors. In B, Mr. Speaker, the plans to open regional offices will be implemented in a phased manner once funds are made available. In C, the government has committed to fund TEVETA to enable the institution effectively monitor the provision of quality training standards countrywide. Mr. Speaker, the House may wish to know that A, 70 million kwacha has been provided for in the 2024 budget to procure equipment and other training tools. B, lecturers have been attached to cooperating partners such as Kenya, South Africa, and China. C, collaboration with industry is being undertaken to keep pace with the changes in equipment, technology, and measuring tools. And D, in the water sector in particular, TEVET has partnered with the Lusaka Water and Sewerage Company, GIZ, and other TEVET institutions, undertaking a dual training for both lecturers and students. Mr. Speaker, I submit.
Honorable Member for Kafinsa to make a follow-up question.
Mr. Speaker, the question that has been asked by the Member of Parliament for Gwembe is a very, very important question, because it sits with ensuring that the regulator has got enough capacity to provide services into our respective communities. And I was following up the answers that the Minister has given. And my follow-up question, Mr. Speaker, the Minister indicates an amount that has been allocated in the 2024 budget. The Minister also indicates that this implementation will be done in a phased manner. But I think that the pressure which is out there in all the 156 constituencies is that Teveta is not responsive enough. And I was expecting that maybe timelines would have been attached to these plans which the ministry has to devolve the functions of Teveta, so that all these training institutions, especially the many that have come up with, can be regulated to provide the right training to our respective constituencies. So, Mr. Speaker, my question to the Minister, can you give us some timelines? We are in February. When do we expect the recruitment? When do we expect PSMD to clear those names? When do we expect these activities to happen so that perhaps the question that has been asked could be adequately responded to? Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Technology and Science.
Mr. Speaker, and thank you for that very good follow-up question. Indeed, we are concerned about the quality of access and also service delivery. And that is why I have indicated that, one, we have a provision of 70 million kwacha in the budget to address the procurement of equipment and other training tools. I have also said that as we wait for the decentralization of Teveta to the provinces, starting with the Copper Belt and Southern Province, we have applied to the Manpower Division at Cabinet to allow us to recruit inspectors to assist in the inspection to ensure that the quality of access, the quality of teaching is monitored and enhanced. Mr. Speaker, I submit.
The Honourable Member for Lunte.
Mr. Speaker, thank you so much. And I would like to thank my older brother, the Honourable Minister, for the discourse he's tendered so far. Honourable Minister, I'm glad you have indicated that government has a plan to decentralize services of Teveta. My question to you is, in which national plan is this plan contained, so that your people in Lunte can know exactly what national document to make reference to when verifying the existence of that plan? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister of Technology and Science.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think you may inform the people of Lunte that the plan is contained in the 2030 plan, where skills, technology have been prioritized to underpin economic development. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
The Honourable Member for Chimwemwe.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Honourable Minister, Teveta, especially the new training institutions that are registered with Teveta, they've actually started taking advantage of the CDF training programs. They're actually charging exorbitant fees. If you look at driving, last year they were charging 4,000. ITC also was charging 4,000. This year they're charging 14,000, and they're getting most of our people. Do you, as a government or ministry, have any plans to start regulating their fees? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Technology and Science.
Mr. Speaker, that is a very important question. What I can say for now is that we are carrying out necessary review to minimize the exploitation that is being undertaken, in particular by some of the private institutions. And the role of TEVET, when they provide you a license, is also to regulate, among others, the fees. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
The Honourable Member for Chikankata.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. Speaker, for giving the good people of Chikankata an opportunity to ask a question. My question is, due to the increment of CDF by the new Dawn government, and most of the constituencies in the country, they are constructing skills training center. Is it the wish of this ministry to take this construction skills center on board by equipping them with the equipment? I submit.
The Honourable Minister of Technology and Science.
Mr. Speaker, we don't have unlimited budget in terms of equipment. We are going to be carrying out assessment as you finish your construction to see what capacity we have to support those institutions. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
The Honourable Member for Bambashe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when the Honourable Member of Parliament for Kamfinsa was asking the Minister that when do we see the recruitment and the placement, because he understands how long...
Honourable Member, ask the question. You are debating?
Yes. I'm giving a background.
Don't need your background. Ask the question.
I need to give a background, Mr. Speaker. It is my question. It is my question. Minister, you said you had applied to PSMD to give you authority for you to recruit. When do we see the PSMD giving you authority so that you can do the recruitment, bearing in mind that CDF is sponsoring a lot of youths who are currently going into different training institutions without granting the quality of the training that these youths are receiving? I thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Technology and Science.
Mr. Speaker, the short answer is that we are going to follow up. I thank you.
The Honourable Member for Lundazi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honourable Minister, whilst we are looking at decentralizing the TEVET institutions countrywide, the people of Lundazi are also awaiting the opening of their institution. The question would be, how early are you going to open some of the institutions which are completed, especially Lundazi Trade School? I submit.
As the time is 16:40 hours, I suspend business for a health break for 20 minutes.
Thank you very much for still being with us on Parliament Television. The House has gone on a 20 minutes health break, and on the floor of the House just before the House went on break was Lundazi's Member of Parliament, Brenda Nyurenda, who posed a follow-up question to question number 220, which is under consideration. This is a question posed by Mr. Simunzindini, Member of Parliament for Gwembe, and he directed this question to the Minister of Technology and Science on whether government has any plans to decentralize the operations of the Technical Education, Vocational and Entrepreneurship Training Authority, TEVETA, to the provincial level in order to enhance service delivery. And the second part of the question, he wants to know if so when the plans will be implemented, and the C part of the question, what measures government is implementing to ensure that TEVETA is adequately equipped so as to effectively monitor the provision of quality training standards.
So far, the House has considered 4 questions for oral answer understanding order 74. Remember, these are questions of ordinary nature.
So just now we take a break and we come back at 17 hours for continued live debates.